But the reality is we are making videos for our audience.
You got to know who they are. You got to go through the process. You got to ask questions. You got to get to know them. And their preferences need to matter. And if we're not taking that into consideration, we're missing opportunities to engage them. We're missing to create opportunities to create things that are going to connect with them. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are and wherever you're watching from. My name is Matt Pierce, host of Visual Lounge. And today we are going to be sharing with you some amazing data and research that's going to hopefully help you think about the way you approach your video creation. Now, I'm going to lay out a bunch of background here and we're going to go through a bunch of stats, but I don't want you to miss out on the fact that you don't have to remember anything here because we have a PDF downloadable that you can go get that's got all this great information, and you can get it for free, of course. But I don't want to miss that opportunity to remind you that there is this data. I will be dropping the link in the materials down below. Make sure it's available to you, so no worries. Now, this is a report that we've done 5 times in the last 10 years. So this is the video viewer study, as we call it. This year it's called the Video Viewer Trends Report. And I've been around and we've done it in 2013, 2016, 2018, 2021, and now 2024. And this has become, I think, an important piece of research because it's a little different. We're not just telling you what people are doing. We're talking about what people's viewers' preferences are. No, we're not talking about the creators' preferences. We're talking about people who are watching your video and my videos, and they're giving an indication of what they are liking, what they are doing, their habits, their preferences, and that can help us shape and make better video. So we're going to be going through a number of different stats. We won't get through all of them. There's way too much here. It's a very, I want to say it's not dense and hard to read, but there's just a lot to it and a lot that we wanted to talk about. Some of it you're going to find, if you're familiar with the report, is updates to questions that we've asked in previous years. But we do have some new additions to it we asked this year. One of them we'll get to is a little conversation about AI and how people are feeling about AI avatars, things like that. So that is to come as we get to it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the report. I'm going to pull it up on screen here, and we're going to just make sure we've got everything that we need. All right, so you can see here we've got the report. I'm just going to bring it up. A couple things about the report just to remind you of. This is about 1,000 people that have gone through the report. And so of that 1,000 people, I want to make a distinction here. These are not college students. They are not students of any sort. These are professionals who work in a variety of different industries. You might consider healthcare, finance, those type of industries. So these are people who are working in industry that are using video. And in particular, we're looking about video that is focused on instructional and informational. We're not interested in the entertainment kind of preferences for how much they watch Netflix or, Amazon Prime or something like that. We are focused and dialed in on instructional and informational videos. Now, they might go watch YouTube videos, which we'll see there. They might go places for instructional and informational videos, but we're not interested in the entertainment aspect of those videos. So just as a kind of reminder, instructional videos teaches a process such as step-by-step tutorial. Informational delivers facts, ideas, or information. So slight difference. And you'll see here we've got some key takeaways, but we'll go through those as we go, so no need to look at them right now. Okay, so one of the things that I first want to focus on is that we see in the world that video is continuing to grow and progress in terms of a medium that people are embracing and using and learning from a preference standpoint. Now, the folks could select multiple things. What we find interesting out of this about 1,000 people is that 83% said they prefer to consume instructional or informational video by watching a video. Now, that does not mean they don't also like text or images or other things. Those are all important. We want to look at your work across the body of the kind of things that you're doing, but there is a strong kind of preference for video. And I think what that's starting to tell us is that, in all the work that we do, we might just really need to consider hey, how do we make sure we're giving people the preference that they want, that we're including some form of video. You might also have text, and there are things that are going to be better as text. There's things that are going to be better as images, but we're keeping in mind that preference for these individuals. Because again, some people do prefer text as overall. So what type of videos are people watching? And I want to be careful here. I'm not going to go through every single stat and give you details, but what we see is a lot of people, when they went through this research, they said they're watching informal training videos or watching live streams or webinars, which doesn't surprise me from a learning perspective. Instructional, informational, they're getting that kind of on demand, or they're signing up for something that's happening at a specific point in time. There are a fair amount of formal training videos people have said that they're watching. I think this makes sense. Again, if you're working large industry, you might have compliance videos, you might have security videos, you might have biases or harassment type understanding videos that you're going through. A lot of PowerPoint recordings, and then you can see there's some meetings and some other types of videos here as well. So lots of different options here for people to watch different types of videos. We can see they're kind of consuming a little bit of this and a little bit of that. The next stat I want to talk about is how often are people watching videos? So if we look at the question here, thinking about the videos you've watched in the past 3 months, in which of the following locations have you found and watched them? The reality is here that people are going to go to a lot of different places. The number one spot people are going is YouTube or another public video site. And I think this is important. I think, compared to a decade ago when we were first running this study, YouTube was very much a thing like, gosh, don't go to YouTube. It's just for wasting time. I think many organizations have realized that there's valuable information out there. Can people waste time on YouTube? Absolutely. But is it all just kind of entertainment? No, there's a lot of good information. Oftentimes, if you're not finding information inside your organization, it's a place to turn. It's a public video site, right? I want to go learn something, a function in Excel. Where am I going to go? I don't know who's the experts at Excel in my organization. I doubt they've made a video about it and the thing I need to do, but someone on YouTube has. So we see a lot of people choosing to go out to a public forum to get the information, which does raise questions, about accuracy, about, data security, making sure that you're doing all the right things to make sure you're not following a process that's going to get you in trouble. But I think the risk is fairly small there. A lot of social media sites, kind of same idea. We see a lot of direct sharing. So maybe someone's sharing a video that says, hey, this is going to answer your question. Or, you've been asking me this 10 times. I found an answer for you. Please stop asking me that question. You could also see a lot of individuals going to online courses or academies. So this might be that let's say I want to learn about a project management tool like Asana or Monday.com or something like that. I might go to their academies. I might go see what they have. I might go searching out those answers or to learn more. I just did this with the tool recently, took a small certification in their academy course just to get some fun foundations and understanding. Because see, a lot of people have some internal networking, sharing stuff going on. And then you've got people are going to the internal learning system. Interesting that this is so low. We put a lot of emphasis in the kind of L&D learning and development communities on LMSs. But my guess is most people are using informational and instructional videos. They're doing it ad hoc. They're not always in a formal course. They're not being compelled to take it. They're not like saying, oh, I need to go do this thing. So I think that describes the discrepancy. This 22% might be very valuable to an organization, but the 61%, they're just cranking away trying to get things done probably. Okay, we won't spend a long time on this one, but how often do you watch instructional or informational videos? So you've got a couple different options here. 6%, 10%, 31% is the bulk. So 31%, 2 to 4 times a week, people are watching instructional and informational videos. So the next highest being 1 to 2 times a month. So most people are watching videos greater than 2 times a week. So that's what 47% of the people are watching 2 or more videos a week, which I think, again, just says that like the ubiquity of video now, the ease of access, and that usually you can find the information and you don't have to decipher through what someone's written about something, makes it really appealing there. I think this next one will come into play later on as we look at length of video, which we're going to talk about, which I know is a perennial question, is why do people watch video? The number one reason people said that they watched videos is to increase their knowledge. It's like, yeah, if we're talking informational, instructional videos, they want to know something. They're going to watch it. But we also see the number 2 reason is to learn a new skill or ability, which I think is you think about what's video is good for. It's good at showing skills. It's good at showing you step by step. You can get more information than maybe just from a text or an image because you can see if motion's involved or if there's actions that need to take place. So I think that's not not a surprise to me. Number 3 reason I was required to watch it. Organizations obviously have compliance needs. They have regulatory needs. They have reasons why you must watch something, health and safety, whatever it might be. And that's at 16% is the third largest reason people watch videos. Coming in at number 4, I want to learn about a general topic. So you see, I think kind of the first 2, increase my knowledge and learn a new skill or ability. I think the thing we see is maybe it's a little bit more focused. This is like, you know what? I don't know what SEO is. If you don't know SEO, search engine optimization, you go watch a video about it. Or you're just going to generally go learn about, kind of an idea or, there's the headless CMSs. That's like a mouthful for some, right? Like, what is a headless mean and what is a CMS and blah, blah, blah. If you wanted to go find a video on it, you probably could. That would explain what that is. I can see more about general topics. Again, we talked about to learn about a specific part of a topic, kind of that more narrow niche, and to solve an immediate problem. Of course, a great way to do that, right, is dig in. Now, as you start thinking about, okay, well, how does this affect me as a video creator, perhaps, or as a creator of training content? Well, we get to this question that's think of the most recent instructional or informational video that you viewed. What are the top 3 things that made you click on that video? Now, even if you're saying like, hey, Matt, this is all going into our learning management system, which you just said maybe isn't as relevant or people aren't going there as much, this still applies because unless you're absolutely saying you have to complete this training or you lose your job or you will be penalized or something like that, you want to entice people to watch your videos or go through your training, even if they have to, right? Like you want them to be like, oh yeah, this is actually going to be pretty good. Because we've all been there. We've all have stuff that we've got to go through. And you're like, oh, do I really have to go through this now? So we want to make it enticing. So I'll just go through the top 4 or 5 here. Just again, for podcast listeners, you're going to want to go get the report to see this. But the number 1 thing, 54%, again, this was a multi-select option. But the number 1 thing is the description matched what I wanted to learn. So they got 3 options. Number 1 was description matched what I wanted to learn. So as a creator, it is imperative that you are thinking about that description. You're thinking about what it says, what it's promising. And if it's not, your promises and what you're saying there don't match up in your video, people will stop watching it. We'll see that later in the data, but people will stop watching. So you just want to be super mindful. Your description should indicate, but really, there's no secret here. They know what they're here for. They're here to learn something. There's no secret. So like, we're not trying to be like mysterious, like coy, like, ooh, what are you going to get out of this video? I don't know. No, lay it out for them. Be straightforward. Number 2, at 35%, the video length was acceptable. Now, we got a whole thing. Again, video length is coming up soon, I promise. But it's got to be acceptable based on a bunch of criteria, I think. So based on what is the topic? How complicated is it? How fast does the person have an expectation that you can solve that problem or go through that information? Because if you're wasting their time, that's a problem and they're going to stop watching. So you want to find that balance, right? They might want a short, right? But reality is they might have expectations coming in and we just want to try to match that. So there might be some questions you have to ask. There might be some research. You might kind of want to look at other videos and see completion rates, but you want to try to find that kind of Goldilocks principle, just the right length. Number 3, title was intriguing or interesting. Same kind of idea. Pull them in. Get them excited about this, like, I don't think we have to sugarcoat it, but we also don't have to be super dry and, just matter of fact. I think we want to build a little bit of interest there. Number 4, 24%, I was asked to watch it. Got to do it. Number 5, at 20%, it came to the top of my search results. So number 5 is interesting because people are out searching and it was just at the top. For many things, that's not going to be a relevant thing inside our organization, maybe, but if they're going out to YouTube, if they're going out to TikTok, they're going out to Instagram, they're going out to wherever they're looking, just Google even, that first thing has a lot of weight. Now, that goes into whole other conversations about search engine optimization. That goes into whole other conversations about how you do that and how hard that could be. But remember that you just want to be aware of it, right? Like that the thing that you put at the top of any training course is the thing that's the most likely to look at first, most likely thing to get watched the longest. So you want to be strategic about that placement. And you can see all the other things that come up. It's all super relevant, interesting there. My favorite every year is towards the bottom. Why did they watch things that made you click on the video? I was bored. whoo, you got to be pretty bored to watch some of the training videos I've seen in my life, but that's another story. So just be mindful of the reasons why people start. You want them to start watching your videos. Going down here, let's get into video length. And I think this will be super interesting. We're looking at video length preferences. Now, as I mentioned, this study is broken really looking at instructional and informational videos. So it's really two categories. And you can see they're very similar with some slight deviations in terms of kind of overall, but the pattern is the same. So let's just focus on instructional videos here. And so people got to say like, hey, my preference for video is 0 to 30 seconds or 30 seconds to 1 minute and so forth and so on. In this year's study, this is one of the big changes I've noticed. We actually have seen a shift over the almost five times we've done this, to 10 years that we've been running this study, in the preference of video length. And what we see this year is the biggest preference at 26% of the people chose 10 to 19 minutes. The next closest is 5 to 6 minutes with 17%. And then we've got a tie at 7 to 9 minutes and 20 to 39 minutes at 15%. So they're both at 15%. And 3 to 4 minutes is 13%. So, the interesting thing here is you look across this. Most of the people prefer less than 20 minutes. Hands down, they want shorter. But that preference of 10 to 19, and in fact, just 7 to 9 to 20 to 39 is so high. I think what we've been saying for such a long time, and I think it was true, that people really did want short video. People wanted short form video, and I don't think that's bad. I don't think that's untrue. But I think what this is telling me about preferences, at least what is stated. I think there's all kind of things we could look at and run multiple kind of other studies to see. But I think when people are reporting, they're saying they want a little bit longer videos. And the reason it becomes a little bit more clear, we'll look at in just a second, is why they wanted a longer video. What was it about the video that, they're trying to accomplish that maybe 1 to 2 minutes or 3 to 4 minutes isn't going to cut it? So I think this is really an interesting kind of observation here and preference. Now, I think the advice stands, your video should be as short as possible, but long as needed. We've been saying that for ages here on the Visual Lounge. I think that hasn't changed. But I think if you're a video creator and creating training and your boss is saying, no, we want it 2 minutes. That's great if the content only needs 2 minutes. But I think you could take this and say, well, look, I don't think we're going to lose people if it's a little bit longer. Now, I think there's things that you can do inherently in any video that might just lose people, right? You might be, rambling. You might be going off topic. You might not be covering the stuff that you described. You might be looking at all these other things. And, a video really should have one focus. It should have one topic, one thing that you're going to accomplish, and it should do that job really, really well. If you got another topic, another thing you want to accomplish, that's another video. But because people are looking for more broader, deeper information, the length can be a little bit longer if you're giving that. If it's a quick how-to tutorial on that's 5 steps to, add an image to Microsoft PowerPoint, you don't need 20 minutes. But if it's a process that you're having them go through that might be a little bit more complex, or you're teaching them about I'll use this example of the certification I went through. I was learning vocabulary about what these different parts and pieces were that were all brand new to me. I was learning about the tool itself and how it works and the pieces and parts that could come together. And then I'm learning how to push all this stuff together in my head to see okay, if I push this button, which is about this kind of thing, and then I do this and this. So there can be some depth there. So I want to look at, again, instructional video. And we look at this, and this is the reasons, and this is going to be hard for the podcast. I'm not going to go through all the detail, but we basically broke out for each kind of preferred length, why they chose that, right? Why did they say 0 to 30 seconds? Well, 50% of those people wanted 0 to 30 second videos because they just want to learn about a general topic or product, right? Just quick hit. What is that thing? What does it do? I do want to give the caveat here. When you go into the report and you're looking at this, know that this was not a multi-select. People couldn't choose multiple preferences. So when you see 0 to 30, it doesn't represent 0 to 30 seconds, I should say. It does not represent a lot of people. So those numbers are pretty small. Now, when you get up into those bigger numbers, like the 10 to 19, the 5 to 6 minutes, 7 to 9 minutes, the numbers are more sizable. But remember, this is out of a pool of like 1,000 people. So those numbers are just going to break down a little bit. So it is interesting to see what people are saying about why they chose that. And, when we get those longer videos, we see, a lot of people needed to increase knowledge and get informed on a topic. They're like, their boss comes to them and says, hey, we want you to learn about, I'll use search engine optimization again. Can you do that? And you're like, yeah, sure. I absolutely can. And then you got to get started. And so you want to probably deep dive on that, right? You're not like looking for a quick, how do I enter a keyword? It's like, what do I do there? Others in that category that were significant at 19%, I wanted to learn a new skill or ability to use at my job. So again, there's this kind of like, I don't need to know how to use the feature. I'm trying to gain a bigger skill. I want to do more with it. I don't want to just know how to put an image in PowerPoint. I want to know, how do I make my images look good and designed in PowerPoint? Something like that. And then you can see in the longer form videos, some of the similar kind of trends and ideas along that. And in the shorter kind of form videos, people had immediate problems, or, they were looking for something like, I want to learn about a specific part. Like they're getting kind of more niche, and niche can be a little bit shorter. So super fascinating stuff when it comes to video length. I think it's worth reviewing if you're about to create some videos, and then start to say, like, what is my video for? What am I trying to accomplish here? Outside of the learning objective, but is this kind of a general knowledge? Is this a very specific skill? Am I kind of leveling them up and they're trying to understand what it means to be, a chef, or, a dishwasher, or, a foreman, or whatever job role title that works with your organization. And so then you can adjust kind of the length. And I think people will appreciate that thoughtfulness about the video creation and the length you have. I do want to also pull up the stat here that I think is really interesting. So 62%. So although the preferred length is increasing, there's still a nope, it's too long line. And I think this is really important. There is a length that gets too long, and 62% of the viewers said they would not watch a video 60 minutes and longer. Now, what that also points to is that there are a group of people that would. But most people are like, an hour is just too much time. It's hard to fit into your day. It's a lot of reasons for that, I think. But there is a line that you want to just be mindful of, and you can cap out at. And this next stat is, which of the below video elements keep you interested in watching? So if we got the stuff that we talked about earlier, your description, your title, things that get people to click and start watching. But what do we need to do to keep them watching? And I think this is always really fascinating. Key things to keep in mind. Again, people could choose more than one. Number one thing, though, it's easy to follow along. If you're going all over the place, and I'm guilty of doing this, calling myself out on this. I do this when I make videos sometimes. If you're not easy to follow along, people are likely to stop. They're not going to stay watching. The second one is at 55%. The first one is at 57%. This one is at 55%. Content is relatable and current. It's relatable. It feels like it applies to me. It means something to me. It's going to help me. Look like it has a Maslow's hierarchy of needs kind of thing, right? It's going to help me get more money. It's going to keep me safe. It's going to, help me do better my job, be more respected, feel whatever. You want it relatable, and it's current. Like, someone doesn't want to go out to your video and find out that it's from 2010 and think, well, now this is 14 years old. There's been a whole lifetime that's happened since then. This is no longer valid. Number 3, at 51%, the speaker, presenter is engaging and knowledgeable. Of course, we want to be engaged. We want the person, and I think there's a lot to be said about that. People want to connect with people, even through video, right? You want to hear their voice. You want to see their face. You want to do all these things, and people connect with people, and that's where we need to be at. And so you want to try to do that, and they want to know that you're not just blowing smoke. It's just they want to trust what you've got to say and feel like that you are someone who is authentic in doing that. At 35%, so quite a big drop. Those first three are pretty close together. 35% of people said audio narration. Let me say it again because it's the point that matters. Audio narration is high quality and easy to hear. So good audio. We've been saying that a long time. I had someone ask me recently, well, what does it mean to have bad audio? And I'm like, I don't know how to define it. but you'll know it when you hear it. So just be mindful when you're recording your audio, make sure it sounds good. There's a whole bunch of AI options with, synthesized voices that are coming out. Some of them are pretty good. That's an option. I don't always love it. I think, again, going back to kind of that presenter is knowledgeable and engaging, humans like to connect with humans, even if the AI stuff is pretty cool. Next, at 32%, topics presented in a unique or humorous way. So if you can be interesting, be interesting. Don't force it, though. Sometimes a topic is just, I guess you could be clever about it. But you know your timelines, you know your stuff. So, but only 32% of people said that kept them interested. So you got a whole lot of room to not worry about it. Professional styles was next. Have a good story or use good storytelling. Yep. Kind of going down the line is required viewing. You've got interactive elements, quizzes, and surveys. At 14%, face of the speaker is visible during the video. Okay. So people like to see you. Again, humans, right? This is, again, remember, preferences. So people have preferences about what visual styles, characteristics do you feel are most important. So what are the things that are going to really be the most important in a video that they watch? And number one, you can see we broke it. They got to rank 3. You can see how it breaks out in terms of what people chose as number 1, number 2, number 3. I'm going to just focus on a couple of the number ones. Clear audio quality was number 1. Let's clear camera footage as number 2. The camera footage actually over the last couple of years, it's grown. It's gotten a little bit more important, which is interesting. Audio is still wildly important, but camera, having a clear footage, I think our expectations are growing a little bit. Coming in at the third option, that was number 1, professional style graphics. People want to feel like you put some effort into it, I think. And then we get a couple other things here. Again, I'm just focusing on what people rated as most important. These things, if you look at the second most important, third most important, it's kind of interesting as well. But the fourth most important thing people said as their number 1 was focus indicators to know where to look. So this could be a mouse cursor. This could be annotations on your screen. It kind of depends on how you're rolling with that video. If you're showing something that's like B-roll or, maybe it's a machinery and you've got that piece of machine on camera, like how do they know what they should be looking at? I've watched plenty of how to help videos. I'm like, where am I supposed to focus? Like, what is the thing that they just said? So you want to think through that. And then the next one, and I'll say something about this as well, but speaker or avatar appearing on screen. That was a very important characteristic. What's interesting is that has diminished since the 2021 report. It used to be more important than focus indicators. So just know that these things are starting to ebb and flow, that your speaker on screen, which you also heard was kind of in the last category, it's becoming, I would say it's still important, but it's becoming a little less important. And I think what people are saying is like, hey, I just need the information. And we know from research, that's not our research, but just general best kind of instructional research, people faces on screen do not seem to impact learning effectiveness, but people have a preference for them. So, and that's older data. So it'd be interesting to see if that's changed at all too. Oh, I'm going to touch on this. This is less of a graph, but it's more a wall of text, but it's so good. And it's, why do people stop watching videos? I've kind of indicated some of these things, but like, look, this is really important because 33% of the people said they simply got the information they needed before the video ended. So we often if you look at video analytics, you'll see that people drop off, right? First 5 seconds on YouTube, boom, your numbers are going down pretty quickly. And we see most people don't get to the end. It might be 10, 20, 30%. If you're lucky, it's 50%. But what we have to realize when we're making instructional video, especially if it's not meant to be a course, like I've got to complete all the things. I've got to do all the parts and pieces. If you're looking for that knowledge hit, you want to learn about a tool, you're doing those types of things, they got the answer and they're gone. That's still a win. If you're making like a customer education video and they got the answer they needed and they leave, that's a win. So just be mindful about that sometimes exit intent is that it was successful, even if it doesn't look like it because they didn't watch the whole video. Now we go on to say in the report, 25% of respondents, the video did not have the information they expected. So remember the thing about looking at like description, title. Yeah, you got to lay it out for people. And if it doesn't match, doesn't fit. It's like a pair of socks that don't go together. You got to be really careful about that. And people will stop watching that. People also stop if it's super boring and uninteresting, which you're probably about ready to do now on the podcast. I get it. I hope not. Keep listening. I got a couple more things coming up. And then people stop watching. Some people, 9% stop watching because of poor quality. Can't get away from it. But if they've got another choice, they're going to go to it. So lots of advice is in the report. So it's not just all the data. You can go pick up some great tips. Well, let's look at this AI stuff because I think this is really interesting. We know that there's a lot of AI avatars coming. TechSmith has actually announced that this coming forth will be AI avatars in part of an Audio offering, which is part of the Camtasia Create. Actually, it's going to be part of Camtasia Pro. When we ask the question, do you prefer to see a real person, an avatar, or an animated character on screen? Here's the breakdown. 87% said they prefer a real human or person. 7% said animated character. 6% said an AI-generated person. Now, look, we are so early days in this that I think this is like the first kind of like just lick the finger, put it in the air and say like, what's the temperature? Is the wind blowing? And I think we'll start to see that. I'm guarantee the next time we do this study, when we do it, this will perhaps change because things will about the technology, about the industry will change. But I think again, people like people, and they like connecting to people and hearing from people. And I don't think that's going to go away, but I think we're going to see some opportunities for these other spaces to be effective and growing. And we'll have to think about those use cases and what they can do. This next part, because we've talked about AI, we had Josh Cavalier, we've had Brian Sykes, we've had others come on the show and they're talking about AI. And I think we should be talking about AI. I think in our industry of learning development, of creating video, of marketing, whatever industry segment you're in, AI is going to affect what we're doing. But this is really important that 75% of the people indicated they're very receptive or somewhat receptive to watching instructional or informational video content created with the help of artificial intelligence. So there's this openness like, hey, yeah, I'm open to that. Sure, why not, right? But here's the caveat with that. So they're open to it, but 90% have concerns about the receiving video content created with AI. And here's how it breaks down. 45% of them are concerned about the accuracy. So they're not necessarily, they're saying like, hey, I'm open to AI content, but guess what? I don't know if I trust it. I don't know if it's always accurate, especially if it's a topic I don't know about and I'm coming to you to learn about. How do I know that someone's vetted it and the AI just didn't dream something up? That's a very real reality. If you've worked and tested out AI, you know it can hallucinate, as they call it. And oh my gosh, someone's got to be vetting your content to make sure it's accurate. And then you need to project to your audience that you've done that, right? Like AI created, human vetted, or whatever you're going to say to make that sure that's true. 24% of the people said they have concerns about the quality of content. Well, gosh, maybe it's not as good. Maybe it's not as interesting. Maybe it's not, just like it feels dull and boring and robotic because that voice is kind of stuck on a kind of similar cadence as it always can be because that's what the technology is at. Now, again, we might see that change, but hey, is this good quality content? A human needs to look at that. And you, as a creator, need to be that human. Now, 21% said, look, I'm worried about the origins of the content. Where did this come from? Did this scrape somebody's site? Is it, are we going to get in trouble because it's, that's all got to get worked out in the legal system and the courts and all that stuff. But it is something to be mindful of, right? Your audience is worried about like, hey, if Matt made this course about this, how did that get created? Did he really make that? Or did he just have an AI, put it together? And I think so you also want to be thinking about kind of like, hey, what are you feeding it versus how much are you just taking from it? So you want to find that balance and we'll have to work that out. But AI is obviously, it's going to be an important tool, right? It's going to be something that we want to continue to use. We're going to come to rely on it. We are going to have some really great opportunities. So some other stats in here about workplace stuff. But I wanted to give you a high level overview. I tried to get into some depth there. There's a lot more detail there. There's a lot of best practices. There's a lot of information in there that if you go through it, what you're going to find is not only is there great stats to back it up, but there's like, hey, well, this is some tips. This is some ideas. And if you're not finding it in the report, I can guarantee you TechSmith probably has a blog, a video, or something about it then, because we're here to help you. We're here to help you make you better at this process. And I think the takeaway for me and why I love this study is because we're not saying, hey, what do you think as a creator? What are all the other creators saying about what they're doing? That's important. We love having the Nick Nimmons. We love having, the Sean Canals. We love having the YouTube creators come on and share that with us. But the reality is we are making videos for our audience and their preferences need to matter. And if we're not taking that into consideration, we're missing opportunities to engage them. We're missing to create opportunities to create things that are going to connect with them. And we want that, right? Like at the fundamental why I love doing this is I want you to take away from this something of value. I want you to get better. I'm not doing this just because I love sitting in my basement and hearing myself talk. I really don't. But I do love the idea that someone listened to this and they got better. I love the idea that I'm trying to put out helpful content so that I can lift the boats of everybody, right? I can lift everyone that's making video for their company, for their marketing department, for their customers, for their, for their fun even, right? If that's their gig. As you go through this, remember, as you're starting, keep creating videos, keep doing it. Remember your audience. You got to know who they are. You got to go through the process. You got to ask questions. You got to get to know them. Think about what you're making, why you're making, and how those preferences can help you make a better video. Well, everybody, go check it out. Again, the links are all over. We'll be posting those. But thank you so much for joining me here in the Visual Lounge. This is one of the great privileges of my role here at TechSmith is to help you guys. I hope you get out of it everything you need and want. Of course, you've got questions, thoughts, suggestions for the show. Please, you can email me at thevisuallounge@techsmith.com. I'm not hard to find. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn or someplace else, you can always go through the TechSmith social channels. We'll make sure we respond to you there. And with that said, hope you take a little time to level up every single day. Thanks, everybody.